Hey, beautiful souls. Welcome to Signals and Standards with Suzie, the show where we decode mixed messages, raise the bar, and serve up real talk with a side of empowerment. I'm your host, Suzie, your go-to for truth bombs, clarity, and the kind of tough love that gets you unstuck and back in the driver's seat of your life. Together, let's turn those signals into action. Welcome back to Signals and Standards with Suzie, where we read the signals, raise the standards, and reclaim our worth. Whether it's love, work, friendship, or how we show up for ourselves, this is your space to pause the noise, plug into truth, and move through life with more confidence and clarity. Today's topic is a big one. And while it speaks directly to dating, it doesn't stop there because these patterns show up everywhere. In our relationships, personal and professional, in our careers, and really even how we treat ourselves. Let's be honest. Modern dating can feel more like an endless scroll than a meaningful experience. Left, right, match, ghost, repeat. Anyone have swiping fatigue? It's no wonder so many singles are exhausted, jaded, or just plain checked out. But here's the thing I learned in my many years as a dating coach. The burnout is real. Burnout isn't only about having too many apps or going on too many dates. It's about the disconnect between what we want and how we show up to get it. And that's not limited to romance. The same is true when you're hustling for recognition at work, overextending in friendships, or constantly performing just to feel accepted. When you're living for validation, you lose sight of what actually matters to you. Psychologically, this kind of fatigue stems from repeated cycles of unfulfilled expectations. You invest your energy hoping this time might be different, only to feel disappointed again. Anyone feel that way? Over time, your nervous system, it really begins to associate connection, whether romantic or professional or any personal connection, with stress instead of excitement. It becomes a chore. That doesn't just drain you in one area, it colors every space you step into. We're going to unpack that today, and then we're going to help you build something better. So take a deep breath, shake off the fatigue, and get ready to reconnect with the why behind your wants. Whether you're swiping, networking, or simply learning to honor your own standards, this is about moving with purpose. You coming with? Okay, let's get started. So how do you shift from dating burnout to dating with clarity? From endless swiping and hey messages to something that actually nourishes you. It starts with one simple yet radical move: reclaiming your intention. Now let's be clear. Intentional dating doesn't mean you have to treat every date like a job interview for the one. It's not about pressure. It's about presence. It's about showing up as your whole self, grounded in what you want, not settling for what's available. I've often written and advised people to date like you're choosing someone worthy of protecting your peace of mind, body, and soul, not just someone to fill a spot by your side. This is dating mindfully. Because that shift of mindset, it's powerful. It puts you back in the driver's seat. It's no longer about just being chosen. It's about choosing. And it doesn't mean being picky. It means choosing the right partner for your life. And when you date and even socialize from that space, you stop attracting chaos and you start recognizing compatibility. Research backs this up. A 2020 study published in Psychological Reports found that dating app fatigue is a real phenomenon, often tied to cognitive overload and repeated disappointment. When we engage in low effort, high volume swiping, our brain treats dating like a slot machine, chasing the next hit of validation, even when it's empty. This is called reward prediction error in neuroscience. We keep expecting something good, but we're constantly met with a sense of disappointment. And that mismatch, it's exhausting. According to the Kinsey Institute, nearly 45% of dating app users report feeling burnt out or emotionally drained by the process of using these apps. This is where intentional dating flips the script. So what do? You want to first start by asking better questions to yourself. Yes, first and foremost to yourself, because self-awareness is the first filter. If you don't know what you want, you'll accept anything that shows up. So, before another swipe, try these reflection prompts. What does a healthy relationship actually look like for me? Not Instagram perfect, but real life nourishing. What are my top 3 non-negotiables in values, energy, and lifestyle? Am I confusing chemistry with compatibility? Am I ignoring red flags because they feel familiar? Better the devil you know. One of my most read blog posts talks about how we choose people based on the emotional patterns we're used to, not the ones we need. That's why reflecting isn't fluff. It's the most strategic thing you can do. So where is your energy going? Here's some tough love, because you deserve truth, not just comfort. If you're swiping nightly with no purpose other than distraction, if you're giving energy to people who haven't really earned your interest, or even going on second dates just because you don't want to be mean, then let's call it out. That's not dating with intention. That's dating on autopilot. But here's the beautiful part. This isn't about guilt. It's about awareness. And awareness is where every empowered shift begins. Because when you know better, you choose better for yourself and for your peace. We all deserve to live a life that feels like ours, not one dictated by other people's expectations or even the latest success blueprint. Intentional living, as defined by psychologists, means building your days around your core values, making choices that feel aligned to who you are, instead of reacting or drifting. Psychology reinforces that when we set clear, achievable intentions, our emotional well-being skyrockets. We feel more purpose, satisfaction, and less stress or loneliness because we're actually steering our lives instead of being led. Clarity is foundational. Once you know what feels meaningful to you, not what looks good on everyone else, it frees you to set healthy boundaries, stop chasing a hollow version of success, and invest your time where it truly matters. In both your personal and professional life, this means showing up differently. It means saying no to work and social commitments that drain you, surrounding yourself with people who lift you rather than trip you up, and also choosing work projects that feed your soul rather than just your bank account. I know that one's hard, but think about it. It means pausing that endless loop too. What's the endless loop? That loop of, what if they don't like me? What if I fail? Keeps going on repeat, right? And instead of doing small values-based actions every day, you're doing this. It's going on over and over and over. The same story in your head, the same loop. You could change that by starting your morning with intention. An affirmation, reclaiming your evenings for rest, or following up in your friendships with honesty and care. For me personally, it means waking up early to exercise and do some meditation or affirmations and start the day before my kids wake up. Because for me, that gets me started on the right foot. And I'm not rushing. I have the right mental state. I'm moving forward in a positive direction, ready to take on whatever hits me the moment my kids wake up and the moment I start working. So really, let's be honest, these shifts aren't nice ideas. You know that you need to make a change if you're feeling burnt out, because this is what's going to ground you. It strengthens your confidence and really helps you live in alignment across all aspects of your life. I'm talking about dating here, but this is really applicable to anyone's life in any aspect of your life. So if you are dating or meeting people, what does it look like if you're being intentional? So you're saying no to people. We talked about that last week. You say no, even if someone's attractive or interesting, but they're consistently inconsistent, or your attraction isn't reciprocal. You want to ask more profound questions early. Not just what's your favorite movie, but what does partnership mean to you? And what are you passionate about? What makes you wake up in the morning? Look at what makes them excited, and you'll see who they really are. And you want to walk away with grace if something doesn't work out. Not because they're bad, but because they're not aligned with you and not a good fit. It's not rude, it's self-respect. And you want to be able to respect yourself enough to walk away from the things that don't work for you. And there's nothing wrong with that. Intentional dating also isn't about being picky. It's about self-honoring. When you set the bar for how you want to be loved, you invite people who can meet that. You stop chasing the potential and start recognizing partnership. If you're feeling burnt out, this is your invitation to pause, to realign, to stop auditioning and start deciding. Because really, being intentional in your life doesn't just change your relationships. It changes your relationship with yourself. And beautiful soul, it's where the real glow ups happen. So before we go any further, I want you to pause and really check in with yourself. Not your dating profile, not asking you to go on your dating apps right now. Don't look at your overflowing inbox at work or listen to the voices of your past. Just you. Ask yourself, what kind of connection am I truly available for right now? And don't stop at dating. Look at your friendships, your career, even the relationship you have with yourself. Are you surrounding yourself with people and opportunities that bring peace? Or are you caught up in dynamics that drain you? In your professional life, this might look like chasing titles or projects that look impressive on the outside, but leave you restless and burnt out on the inside. In your personal life, it might mean holding on to relationships and friendships out of habit instead of true alignment. Either way, those patterns are signals. And the first step to raising your standards is noticing them with honesty. That honesty is where intention begins. So let's hold that thought and sit with that thought. Welcome back to Real Talk with Suzie, the space where your boldest, juiciest questions get real answers. Today we're diving into something close to the heart, dating with purpose. And remember, You can always send me your questions at powercoachsuzie.com. Here's our first question. I get bored when I'm not dating. How do I know if I'm dating from loneliness or genuine desire to meet a partner? This is one of the most revealing questions you can ask yourself because it goes straight to the heart of why you're dating in the first place. The fact that you're asking it tells me you're already stepping into a higher level of self-awareness. Most people never stop long enough to reflect. They just keep dating to avoid the silence or loneliness. But that silence, it's not your enemy. It's actually information. It's showing you where the gaps are in your own relationship with yourself. Here's the truth. When being between relationships feels unbearable, it's often not about missing a partner. It's about missing your own sense of wholeness. Psychologists call this emotional displacement, where we use outside interactions as a distraction from inside discomfort. Dr. Guy Winch in Emotional First Aid talks about how loneliness often disguises itself as romantic desire. We think we're longing for a partner, but what we're really craving is relief from our own feelings. And here's the danger. If you don't notice that pattern, you end up choosing people not because they fit, but because they fill. Desire, real grounded desire, feels completely different. It doesn't come from panic or pressure. It comes from peace. It's the difference between saying, I love my life and I'm ready to share it, versus I feel empty and I need someone to fix it. When you're grounded, you can want companionship without needing it to patch up your self-worth. That distinction is key because a 2018 study published in the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships found that people who feel lonely are more likely to idealize partners early on, ignore red flags, and cling to situations that don't serve them, all to avoid being alone. That's not a connection. That's survival mode disguised as romance. And it doesn't just apply to dating. Think about work. Have you ever stayed in a job or said yes to a project because you felt restless or afraid of being overlooked? That same energy or filling that void shows up professionally too. Keeps you chasing validation instead of opportunities that actually align. In friendships, it looks like holding on to people out of habit or fear of solitude instead of making space for relationships that really nourish you. I always say, you'll keep choosing the wrong people if you don't feel at home with yourself first. And that's so important. It's because your standards, your choices, and your boundaries all flow from how safe and secure you feel in your own presence. If being with yourself feels unbearable, then anyone who distracts you from that discomfort will seem like the one. But if your own company feels peaceful, then you don't reach for just anyone. You start choosing intentionally. Think about it. So here's your invitation. Pause. Breathe. Reconnect with yourself. Ask, what would make my life feel more meaningful right now if I wasn't dating? What lights me up when no one else is watching? Fill your life with those things. Hobbies, friendships, rest, growth, joy. And let yourself be complete first. Because when your own presence starts to feel like home, dating shifts from grasping to choosing. You stop settling for temporary soothing and start waiting for and welcoming the kind of connection that truly adds to the life you've already built. And when you're not looking for your other half, your whole on your own, you find someone else who's whole, and imagine how amazing a relationship like that would be. All right, question 2. Everyone tells me I'm too picky, but I think I have standards. How do I know the difference? Good question. First off, Let me give you a big virtual high five for having standards. Somewhere along the line, society started treating standards like a dirty word, especially for anyone who dares to say, I want more. But let's set the record straight. Wanting a healthy, reciprocal relationship doesn't make you picky. It makes you self-aware. Standards are boundaries in action, and they protect your emotional well-being and keep you aligned with your values. Without them, you're just saying yes to whoever shows up instead of choosing with intention. So what's the difference between being picky and having standards? It comes down to rigidity versus discernment. Being picky is surface level, turning people away for things that don't actually determine whether they'll treat you well or not. Think height, hair color or no hair, job title, what car they drive, their favorite band, or whether they eat pineapple on pizza. Fun preferences, sure, but none of those traits predict genuine love, respect, trustworthiness, or even consistency. That's where people confuse pickiness with standards. Standards, on the other hand, go deeper. They're rooted in clarity and values, not ego. They're about knowing what makes you feel safe, valued, and respected, and refusing to compromise on those non-negotiables. Here's the test I often share. Does this preference protect my peace or just my pride? If you're walking away from someone because they don't text every hour or don't match your exact hobbies or they don't drive a fancy car, that's ego. But if you're setting boundaries because they dismiss your feelings, breadcrumb you, or show up inconsistently, that's not being picky. That is self-respect. And psychology backs this up. A 2021 study in Personality and Social Psychology review found that individuals with clear values-based standards reported higher relationship satisfaction and fewer regrets. Why is this? Because they weren't dating from desperation. They were dating with discernment. That same principle applies beyond romance too. In friendships, in your career, in the opportunities you say yes or no to. When your standards are anchored in your values, you stop wasting time on what looks good on the outside but feels wrong on the inside. Listen to your gut. So the next time someone tells you you're too picky, remember this. Standards don't make you picky. They make you powerful. They ensure you're not lowering the bar just to avoid being alone. They help you build relationships, romantic or otherwise, that actually honor the life you're creating. And that's not asking too much. That's asking for exactly enough. Here's our third and final question. How do I stay hopeful when I keep meeting people who aren't serious? First, let me say this. Your frustration is valid and you're not alone. The modern dating landscape can feel like a revolving door of swipe fatigue, situationships, and people who are just seeing what's out there. It's exhausting when you're looking for something real and keep crossing paths with people who clearly aren't. But here's the first truth I want you to hold on to. Their casualness is not a reflection of your worth. One of the biggest mistakes I see people make, and I've written about often, is internalizing someone else's lack of seriousness as a personal rejection. But someone's inability or unwillingness to commit doesn't mean you're too much. It doesn't mean you're not enough. It doesn't mean you're hard to love. What does it mean? It simply means they're not aligned with what you're ready for. And alignment is everything. Psychologically, our brains are wired to create meaning out of patterns, especially negative ones. Dr. Brené Brown's research on shame and vulnerability shows how quickly we spin stories like, Maybe I'm the problem when someone ghosts or shows up inconsistently. But that story only keeps you stuck. It convinces you to lower your standards instead of holding steady to them. So here's the reframe. They're allowed to want something casual. That's what they want. And you're allowed to want something meaningful. Neither is wrong, but they are incompatible. And the point isn't to convince someone casual to suddenly become serious. It's to honor your own seriousness enough to walk away when things don't line up. You're not going to change anyone. Very rarely do people change, and most likely you're not going to be the exception to the rule. Hope doesn't come from pretending everyone you meet is ready for the same depth you are. Hope comes from trusting that when you consistently say no to misalignment, what does that mean? You're creating a space for alignment to actually enter. That's where your power lies, not in controlling who shows up, but being crystal clear about who gets to stay. So let this sink in. Your job is not to prove your worth to anyone. Your job is to take your standards seriously, even when it feels lonely, even when it feels frustrating. The hopeful heart isn't naive. It's actually very wise. It knows that what's meant for you can't find you if you're busy entertaining what isn't. And believe me, what you want is out there, but will only recognize you when you stop chasing what was never meant to keep you. I know this from personal experience. So really listen to yourself and stick to your standards. Before we move on, I want you to ask you to take a quiet moment just for you and use this time to check in with yourself and reflect. Ask yourself, how can I audit my intentions and boundaries? Before every interaction, I want you to consider, what do I truly want from my connections? What am I willing and able to give? Don't be afraid to say no early. It's far kinder to both yourself and the other person than dragging things out. Next, think about how you can match energy, not just vibes. Chemistry is exciting, sure, but constant and consistent effort matter more. It's the small, steady actions that reveal real alignment. And finally, reframe your rejection. Not getting what you want isn't a failure. Sometimes it's protection. It's a big lesson. And it's keeping you from what isn't meant to serve you. It's time for one of my favorite parts of the show, Suzie's coaching moment, where I share a relatable story from one of my clients and turn it into a takeaway you can use in your own life. Here we go. A client once came to me feeling completely drained, exhausted by the endless swipe cycle, the constant messaging, and the pressure of racing against some invisible clock. They admitted, I don't want to quit the apps because I'm scared I'll never meet anyone if I do. But I'm so tired and drained. I don't know how much longer I can keep this up. Sound familiar? My advice was simple but powerful. Take a break. Not forever, not as a rejection of dating apps, but as an act of self-preservation. See, we've been conditioned to believe that dating apps are the only way to meet people, that if we step away, we'll fall behind or miss out. But the truth is, when you're running on dating app burnout, you're actually pouring energy into quantity over quality. And when your energy is low, it shows. You're not excited about connections. You're not present. And sometimes you don't even know what you really want anymore. So I encourage this client to pause the swiping and step back into real life. Go to that class you've been curious about. Say yes to a friend's invite. Explore your hobbies, because real connection happens when you're engaged with life, showing up as your whole vibrant self, not just as a curated profile picture. But it wasn't just about unplugging. I also asked them to go inward and get a little more clear. Ask yourself, why am I dating right now? Is it to build a meaningful connection or to fill a void? Am I just lonely? What are my true expectations? Am I chasing perfect, or am I open to compatible? Am I honoring my boundaries and non-negotiables? Or am I bending out of fear that time is running out? That tick tock, my biological clock. Yeah. This reflection matters because dating without clarity is like wandering without a map. You burn out faster and it's easy to get lost. And here's what happened. By resetting their expectations and reconnecting with what they truly wanted, this client's energy shifted. Dating stopped being a chase and started becoming a choice. When they eventually returned to the apps, they weren't swiping in desperation. They were swiping with intention, grounded in confidence, aware of their worth, and unwilling to settle for less. If you're feeling that same burnout, here's my challenge for you. Give yourself permission to pause. Reconnect with your life, your joys, and your vision. Reconnect with your people, your friends, your family. When you do return, you'll come back with more clarity, more confidence, and far less fatigue. Because here's the truth. Dating doesn't have to feel like a marathon of disappointment. You don't have to swipe in survival mode, hoping someone finally recognizes your value. When you're aligned with yourself, the right people feel it. The ones who don't, they naturally fall away. And that's really not a loss. It's freedom. So this week, I want you to carry this with you. Date with intention, not desperation. With clarity, not confusion. With confidence, not fear. That shift alone can change everything. So that's a wrap for this week's episode of Signals and Standards with Suzie. We've explored so much together today, from recognizing when you're dating out of loneliness versus genuine desire, honoring your standards without shame, staying hopeful when people you meet aren't ready to show up as you deserve. We've talked about stepping back when burnout hits, reconnecting with your own energy, and dating or engaging in any connection with intention rather than desperation. As you move through your week, I want you to carry something powerful with you. A little mantra to remind you of your worth, your clarity, and your power. So let's say it together. I choose peace. Because your inner calm is your foundation and no one else's chaos should shake that. I choose clarity because knowing your truth lights the way forward even when the path looks uncertain. I choose myself because at the end of the day, your most important relationship is with yourself. Let's repeat it, letting those words settle deep. I choose peace. I choose clarity. I choose myself. And one last time, say it like you mean it from your soul. I choose peace. I choose clarity. I choose myself. Whenever you feel yourself slipping into old patterns, people-pleasing, or doubt, return to this mantra. Let it anchor you. Let it remind you that you don't have to sacrifice your truth or well-being for anyone else's comfort. Reclaiming your voice, setting your standards, and honoring your boundaries isn't just about others. It's about showing up fully for yourself. You deserve that kind of love, that kind of respect, and most importantly, that kind of peace. Thank you all for being here and stepping into your power with me today. I can't wait to see you next week for another empowering conversation. For daily inspiration and practical advice, find me on social media at Power Coach Suzie. Got questions or ideas for the show? Head to powercoachsuzie.com where you can connect with me, explore the blog, or learn more about what I do. This is Suzie signing off. Until next time, keep reading the signals and never, ever lower your standards.